Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 767B, and today's date is September 16th, 2015, and the title of this episode is U.S. Government Admits U.S. Troops Are Officially on the Ground in Syria. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. The interview with Craig Hemke is uploaded now to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over there and take a look at it, or you can come over to the x22report.com site. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see it on the right-hand side. You can view it right from there. Let's get right into the economic collapse geopolitical news. Now, a new study was just released by the Kaiser Family Foundation, and they were looking at Obamacare, and they wanted to know, is Obamacare actually really going up in cost, or is it going down? Because it is called the Affordable Care Act. And when they looked at 9 of the 13 cities, they see that in 2016, yes, I'm sorry to say, premiums will be going up. One of the cities already are showing that premiums are going to be going up about 22.8%. And other cities, they're looking at 10, 15%, 18% increases in health insurance. And they took the study and they looked at this and they said this is what they did this on is the Silver Plan, which is the second lowest cost health insurance plan. And they said, yes, this is going to be increasing. And this plan is used by 68% of the people. And we can see why a lot of the people who are getting these bills are saying, oh, I just can't afford this at this point in time. I'm going to have to opt out. I'd rather take the penalty because that is a lot cheaper. And we can see right now that this Affordable Care Act is not affordable whatsoever. And do you really think the prices are going to continually go down or up? Well, nothing goes down. It's going to continually rise. And this will not stop. And again, this was not created to be a benefit for the people. It was a benefit for the insurance companies because think about how they got this done. The insurance companies wrote the bill. They got together with the government and said, listen, how can we get everyone into this system? Oh, I know what we can do. We will raise the premiums up to a certain level. This way we won't lose any money. And we need a way to get everyone into this system because we need everyone in so we can make a lot of money. The government said, oh, well, we need taxes. We need revenue. So what we will do is we'll create a penalty which will force people into it. And if they don't, we'll make up the revenue on the other side. And you know something? Within this new health care, we can intertwine taxes. We can even put a bailout in there. So if we can't get the people into the insurance, the government will bail out the insurance companies. Are you okay with this? Sure. And this way, there's no competition because all the insurance companies will charge the same. And then we can start raising the premiums all at the same time and no one will be the wiser. And everyone will be stuck because it's mandatory to take this. This is a brilliant plan. This is what we'll do. This is what they did. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure this out. I mean, it's very simple. They did this with auto insurance. There's no competition anymore. They're getting rid of competition. This way, everyone can raise the prices all at the same time. Remember, we're in a fascistic economy, a fascistic run country. This is how it works. It's not for the people, it's for the corporations. Now the FBI is still out there and they're using theoretical encryption horror stories to make their case of why the people need to give up their rights. Why you don't need encryption. Why the federal government needs to spy on each one of you. And they were in the middle of this debate, encryption debate, with Passcode. It was hosted by Passcode, and this is coming out of the Christian Science Monitor. And they had Amy Hess there, the FBI's Assistant Executive Director of Science and Technology, and they were debating about encryption and why they need access to our emails, our texts, and everything like that. And they asked, please present some of the cases that you have to prove that you need this access without getting a court order. And Hamias went on to say, I'll be the first person to tell you that we've done a really bad job collecting empirical data. We need to do a much better job of that, so I have no answer for you right now. I can't even give you examples. They never can they? Because all of this is about going in and spying on the people. They want the people to give up their rights. They want the people to say, I am so scared that I will just allow you to do whatever you want. Well, no. I'm sorry. If you're really looking for a criminal, you're on a case, get a court order. Do some investigative work. You don't need access to everything. And second of all, that violates all our rights. And this is why we need to keep the pressure on. This is why we need to use encryption. Now, I put that link on the sidebar on the X22Report.com. It's PyICrypt. You can take a look at it. The link brings you right over there. You can encrypt your message. The other person has the software. They can decrypt it. And everyone needs to start doing this. Now, I'm not saying go ahead and use this. I'm saying go ahead and test it. Make sure it works. Make sure it does what you want it to do. Make sure there's no holes in it. It is open source code. You can use Start Page. This will hide your searches. You can use a product like blockitpocket.com. Actually, you'll be able to put your credit card, which has an RFID chip on it, your driver's license, which will soon have an RFID chip. You can put it in there to block the signal so they don't track you. You can put your phone, your iPad. All of this will block the signal because the fabric is interwoven with silver, copper, and other metals to block the signal. And we need to keep this pressure up and show them, no, we're behind the Constitution, the people's Constitution, and the rights. And we will enforce it. So guess what? FBI, CIA, NSA, access denied. This is what we need to continually do. Now, we see propaganda coming out of the State Department, Secretary of State John Kerry, about North Korea, how they're creating a nuclear weapon, they're restarting their nuclear power plant. And we have to remember, all the players are the same. All the players in this next world war are going to be Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Syria, and other players that belong to the BRICS system. And right now, Secretary of State John Kerry is saying that we might have to place more sanctions on North Korea to stop North Korea from doing what they're doing. Now, they're really giving out mixed messages because they're placing a lot of sanctions on Russia. They have sanctions on Iran, which will soon be lifted. They had sanctions on Cuba. And of course, President Obama was out there saying, listen, after 50 years, we've learned one thing. Sanctions don't work. So we're going to let everyone into Cuba. We're going to open it all up again. And we can see that sanctions just don't work. Well, if that's the case, why are they continually placing sanctions on North Korea, Russia, Syria, and many other countries, Venezuela, if they don't work? Well, for Cuba, we know why they were going there, because we know Russia was establishing a foothold in Cuba, and from a military aspect, a strategic military strategy, the U.S. needed to be in there. And that is the reason why they decided, okay, we're going back to Cuba. Nothing is done for the people. Nothing is done out in the open where it's benefit to the people. This is for a specific reason. And we can see already with North Korea, they're doing the same exact thing. Now, out in Japan, we see the people are very angry. Protests are all over the place in Tokyo. And we see that they do not want this new legislation passed, which will allow troops to be deployed abroad for the first time since World War II. And they're out on the streets protesting. They do not want this. But is the government going to listen? Absolutely not. They're going to pass this. Why? Because we have war coming up very soon. Out in Ukraine, We see Ukraine scraps nuclear reactor deal with Russia. They are completely separating themselves from Russia right now. Why are they doing this? Well, because we know eventually, and I think that time is coming very, very soon, they will make a huge push into the southeast and Crimea. We see in Ukraine, the police force is doubling. They're going to go from 3,200 police to 6,000 police, and all these police units, or I should say internal security system units, have been trained by the U.S. They replaced the old police system with the new one, and the officers will be doubled right now. So we can see where we're headed with this. And right now, Ukraine is getting ready for something big. Now, what is this big thing that Ukraine is going to do? Well, we need to step back a little bit here. We see that Ukraine has the U.S. and other nations inside the country training the National Guard. The U.S. is going to begin training Ukraine's active duty military. And this is all being done for one reason and one reason only. And that is to make this big push. Now, what are we seeing at this point? Well, the Minsk agreement goes to the end of 2015 and then it expires. That's right. It expires. It disappears. And I said yesterday, Ukraine has continually said, Poroshenko's out there continually saying, John Kerry continually saying, the Minsk II ceasefire agreement is the only agreement. The only agreement, the only agreement, the only agreement. And that to me struck me as strange. Why would they continually repeat this over and over and over? Because at the end of 2015, it expires. And Kiev is not going to extend the Minsk agreement into 2016, which puts the presence of the Organization for Security and Cooperation, the OSCE, in jeopardy, into question. They'll ask them to leave. So we see what's happening right now. The U.S. and other nations are bringing in military equipment, lethal weapons, training the forces, building up their forces. Ukraine is cutting off everything from Russia. The Minsk II ceasefire expires at the end of 2015. The OSCE will leave the country. Perfect opportunity to make their offensive. Because we see at this point there's no other reason to have the U.S. and the other nations in there training the troops. Training them for what? Well, we know for what. They're going after the southeastern area and Crimea all at once. Now, we understand this refugee crisis is really getting out of hand. Yesterday I mentioned that this whole thing looks completely planned, where Turkey was taking in a lot of these refugees over many, many years, building the refugees up to millions to force Europe to help out and join in on this war. Now, England is going to be bringing a warship with 200 sailors and Royal Marines to Europe's first offensive campaign against those people who are smuggling those refugees. And this is going to be the HMS Richmond, a Type 23 frigate, complete with Lynx helicopter and surveillance drones. Do you really think they're there for refugees? No, it's going to be used for other things. Now, in England, their drone policy, the same with the U.S. drone policy, is coming into question. Because you have to remember, this drone policy that both countries have, they just go after anyone without proof, without a trial, without anything. They just kill people because they have some knowledge of something. or they've been told to do this. And right now, Britain's Attorney General has refused to answer questions from MPs over whether he gave the UK government blanket authority to carry out drone strikes in countries Britain is not officially at war with. So if you're not officially at war and you're just going into another country and attacking individuals and killing them, first, it's murder. Second, you're attacking a country. The US and the UK have been doing this. And look at Yemen, the same thing. They're firing upon a nation that did not attack Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, or the US. But all of these countries are in there firing upon the people of Yemen. Right now, about 4,500 people are dead, 23,000 injured, to teach the people a lesson of never ever kick out your puppet government. And they're making the people suffer. And when I say they, U.S. government central bankers. We see Russia out in Syria, who was asked to come into Syria, who was asked to supply military equipment, who was asked to supply humanitarian aid, is continually telling the world and to the U.S., yes, we support Assad. Yes, we bring in military assets. We're not hiding any of this. So nothing covert is going on here. We're telling you we are doing this. We would like to join the coalition to go after the Islamic State. And if you notice, the corporate media is continually saying the Russian aggression. Russian is bringing in military assets. They're saying they are. It's not hidden. I mean, think about this for a second. The U.S. is saying that Russia is the problem there. Russia is going to make this a difficult situation. Well, it's going to make it difficult because Russia is actually going to hit the Islamic State, which is the proxy army for the United States government central bankers. And the U.S. doesn't want this. And let's reverse this for a second. The U.S. government is continually telling that the Islamic State is broken off into lone wolf groups in the United States. The corporate media is saying that the Islamic State was in Texas, was in all these places, which we know this is fake. But let's go with the story. Can you imagine if Syria came in and flew their jets and started bombing the Islamic State here in the United States? What would that look like? That would look like that country was attacking the United States. Would the United States say, okay, that's fine, come on in, let's get rid of them? No. This would be an act of war. Then people say, well, the Islamic State really didn't do anything in the United States. Well, let's say they have the event, the false flag. Well, let's not call it a false flag. Let's say they blow up something in a city. Is it okay for Syria to come in then? To blow up and bomb the Islamic State? Without the United States' permission? No, it's not. This is what the United States is doing in Syria. The United States was not invited. They invaded a country. Russia was invited in. The Department of Defense admits there are special ops on the ground in Syria. And then they quickly said, no, we're denying those. We're denying those reports. U.S. special ops are not in Syria. We know they are. We know the UK has special ops, posing as the Islamic State, which is the Islamic State. Remember, it's the proxy army. Looks like somebody slipped up. We know there's going to be more and more troops going into this region. They're making a play for Assad. Now, President Assad said in an interview with Russian media, he would only quit power if the Syrian people wanted him to and not under pressure from the West. He's saying, let the people decide. They elected me in. If they want me to leave, he will leave. But I'm not going to leave because of the judgment of the United States, the UN Security Council, Geneva Conference, or anything else. The people must speak up and let me know what they want me to do. And of course, the United States government is saying, no, the people have no say in this. We'll tell you what to do. Just like in Yemen. The people have no say in this. We will bomb those people who don't want the puppet government in there. But of course, in Ukraine, let's go back to the coup d'etat. John Kerry said about the Ukrainian people who wanted to kick out Yanukovych that we stand with the people of Ukraine. They've decided that they want this leader out of their country. And their futures do not have to lie with one country alone, and certainly not coerced by any other. So the people have spoken. They want that leader out, and they want a new leader. But in Syria, it's a different story. They don't want the people to speak up. They don't want to hear from the people. I mean, they would if they controlled what was going on there, but they don't. They don't have any control, and they know what the people are going to do because they already voted for Assad. They know they're going to support him. So they don't want to back the people. If they controlled the coup d'etat, if they controlled the uprising, then they back the people. And once they have the puppet government in place, guess what? Those people who want the puppet government out, they're terrorists. This is how it works. We see now there are warnings that cyber attacks are increasing from the Middle East. They're saying that cyber attacks are now coming from Syria and Iran, and they're expected to increase. And they're saying from the Islamic State in particular, there's the Islamic State hacking group and the cyber caliphate, and their attacks are becoming more and more advanced. We have a little bit of propaganda here from CIA Director John Brennan, saying that his agency is monitoring whether Iran may try to assist its clandestine nuclear program with the help from another rogue state such as North Korea. So they're saying that North Korea and Iran could be colluding to create a nuclear weapon. I mean, complete propaganda. They're doing this because there are certain powers, Israel, that does not want this nuclear deal to go through. Now, they're using whatever they possibly can to derail this nuclear peace deal. And we know it's not, we know it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. This all has to do with who is going to sell their natural resources using the dollar, because they needed to get into Iran and Syria. These are the last two countries to prop up the entire system. And we know that a lot of our government employees are corrupt. They bow down to other countries like Israel. The White House bows down to the central banks and corporations. This is why we have a division. This is why no one's working for the people. And we see that they're trying to bring together Iran and North Korea, where they're trying to make this nuclear weapon. And we know that Israel has been testing dirty bombs in the desert. Why would they be doing that? It makes no sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some type of false flag event come out of this, and it could be blamed on Iran and North Korea to get this war started. The FBI is investigating severed fiber optic cables in California. Of course, they went right to that this was done by terrorists. I'm going to say this is most likely done by a disgruntled employee because they knew exactly where to go to cut the cables. But of course, they're using the terrorist angle on all of this. Now, the Islamic State is out there saying that we're back in America. We promise explosions. We promise cars full of explosives. We promise suicide bombers. This is all in preparation for the next false flag event. And you can see it is completely building and building. And when this hits, it's going to hit in many different cities around the country. And this will then kick off World War III. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.